before I even start, I do try to get a mental picture of the placement of the model on the canvas, and so I'll study it for a while. Once I get, okay, this is the position that I'm choosing, then I go ahead and I take my pencil and I start sketching it. I get a general position of it on the canvas. The pencil is pretty easy to wipe out because I like draftsmanship, and I like a certain degree of accuracy with the sketch, getting proportions in the right position. It helps me to mentally not have to focus on that after I start applying paint. So I do try to get the quality of draftsmanship taken care of in the sketch phase. From a live model, typically the model is going to be sitting there for 20 minutes. Okay, after I've completed my sketch, then I take it's a water pencil, and I go back over top of my pencil lines in a very general sort of a way. What this does is, once I start applying paint, if you got pencil lines, or even if you're sketching with oil paint, you're going to lose all the lines. With the watercolor pencil, it actually will bleed through, and I'm able to repeatedly paint over top of it. I also think and find that as long as I am applying and I start to get opaque with my paint, then I'm able to cover up the lines. But I'm also getting to the point where I sort of like to have sort of the roughness of some of those lines pop through, although you really have to look at it to see it. So again, it is a method that I'm enjoying and I'm using. I do apply the first, certainly the darks, in a more of a washy type of effect, and what I do find that works quite well is going over the entire canvas with the same background color. It kind of harmonizes everything. It is a little bit, I have a watercolor background, so I do like the effect of light coming through the pigment, bouncing off of the white of the ground and coming through the pigment. It's got a nice luminosity, and then as I progress into the lights, I do have a tendency to get much more opaque, but I do like a little bit of that background color to be incorporated in the entire painting. It does seem to homogenize, harmonize the whole painting, even though the model in this application, in this pose, is wearing a black top. I've chosen to make it more of a umber yellowish color instead. Okay, here we just continue to apply paint, looking at values, get a general sense of what's this looking at. I mean, there's an interesting interplay between looking at the model, what am I seeing, versus what's actually happening on the canvas. I mean, since this isn't a portrait in the sense of, well, I'm being paid to do a portrait, and I really have to stress about getting it to look like the model. That isn't the point. The point is, can I make an interesting painting that for the viewer is an interesting place to look? I mean, we are creating a visual effect with painting that makes the viewer interested in the canvas, interested in looking here, looking there, discovering, hopefully through the artist's interpretation, a modeling of the form that for the viewer is fun to look at. That's kind of artistic aesthetics, the beauty of why we like art versus photography. It through the human person, the human artist, from a human being, we're getting a representation of Earth and of life, and that's kind of part of the intention. Again, we're just sort of blocking in, getting colors, looking at the form. I do try to keep an open mind and get a feel of where do I want to go. Do I want to throw some interesting colors in the shadows? Again, the model is up on the stand for about 20-minute intervals, and normally it's about a 5-minute break, and so you will see the model come in and going. I do try to be far enough along with the piece that I sort of know where I'm going with it, so that even at break time I can continue to work. getting a little bit more detail in some of the shadows. I'm trying to get more dimension, more interesting colors. I'm also looking at blending. I don't necessarily want to have these real hard, sharp lines. I think with this method you can use a flat bristle brush and float over top of areas and sort of blend out the real hard areas, and it tends to smooth. It gives you more of a painterly method. Of course, it depends on who the person is, who the artist is, and who the viewer is. If you like a particular style or particular method, and then that's agreeable to you, then that may be how one would like to paint. And if you are a person who likes art and that appeals to you, then that may be a piece of artwork that you would want to own and hang in your house. We continue to add details, looking at the hair, trying to get some of that reflection. I'm also pulling color off of the background. Here it's sort of neat to try to get a little bit more impression of 3 dimensions. So what I'm doing is I'm washing out the background color, and the pigment has stained the gessoed canvas, and so it's not coming out white, but it gives it kind of, instead of using a white pigment, which is a very different effect, I sort of like washing out the pigment, and it kind of helps to pop out a corner or give a greater contrast between, in this case, the hair and the background. It just gives me a little bit more feel of 3-dimensionality. We completed the work in the studio, 3 hours, and now we brought it home to the home studio, and we're going to basically finish it up. I have uploaded it to the computer, so I have a image. I can blow it up, I can reduce it, so it's sort of convenient, but I'm really kind of finishing up all the details at this point, using the photo as a reference spot. Again, digging into maybe some more highlights in the hair, details in the eyes, skin tones, etc. I'm also looking at the overall feel on the painting, and well, do I need to wash out a little bit of the color in the background, pop the portrait out a little bit. So I'm just kind of looking carefully, getting a little bit more interest, helping to shape some of the physical features: nose, chin, nostrils, eyes. Working pretty quick. From the studio with the model, that was about 3 hours. You can think of active, because the model takes a break every 20 minutes, probably maybe 2 hours total of having a live model. And I think with the computer and finishing it off, I have maybe an hour that I'm working on right now. Also, I had left the book till the last, because you really don't need a model, and using a photograph to finish the details on the book are easy enough accomplished with a photograph without having to pay the model to hold the book. Yeah, so when to stop you can get yourself into a dangerous position by overworking. I find that if you've painted a feature and you like the way it looks, let's say the nose or the eye, boy, leave it alone, move on to something else. More often than not, going back in, trying to rework it, you end up messing up the painting, and that can be kind of traumatic. Again, I'm adding a little bit of color to the background, helping things to pop out. I'm washing out some of the color. Here I'm sort of almost resaturating because the paint in the background is not dry yet, so I'm actually able to, by applying a little bit more medium solvent oil, I can soften up and feather out the background so it's a little bit smoother and less rugged, if you will. Here I'm popping off some of the color to help the image pop from the background. Here is a completed painting. It also will show you a detail. Again, I am not going for a lifelike color. I'm going for colors that are a little bit more interesting. And thank you very much for watching.